Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of Tech live on Twitch. Thanks for joining today. This is the first live stream after the S20 Ultra one. That was kind of a longer stream. We got a lot of new people, and I just wanted to celebrate. We just crossed 7,000 followers on Twitch, so it's a much smaller platform than things like YouTube or Twitter. But hey, I appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you for getting me there. Another milestone appreciated nonetheless. And we're probably just a couple months away from hitting 200K on the Talos of Tech YouTube channel, so thanks for getting me there. We surpassed 20K on Twitter a couple months ago, I think, but that's growing too. So hey, thank you. Thanks to all of you. Appreciate it very, very much. And thank you, Michael, for subbing with Twitch Prime. He just picked up a Series 5 in titanium. Wow, that's a high-end watch. You should watch the resale value. That's one thing to keep up, your mind open on in those Apple Watch things. Man, they tank fast. Unless it's made of solid gold. Those will hold their value pretty well, shockingly. Mostly because you can't find the things. You know they're out there, but I have no idea where they are. Let's see. Mighty Quinn, thank you for the 10 bits. He just said E. Appreciate the donation. But yeah, I titled this stream Apple is now the budget option because I feel like people don't really have a grasp on. The S20 was a lot more expensive than people realize because they priced not just one. Everyone focuses on the Ultra, because that one is so much more expensive than even the iPhone starting price. But the S20 Plus as well, that's pretty up there. I mean, the fact that there's a $200 gap between the S20 and S20 Plus is somewhat interesting to me because there's very few differences between those two phones. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it pretty much larger display, larger battery? Maybe there's some more RAM in the S20 Plus, but is that it? Is that it? Flying Goats, thank you for subbing with Twitch Prime for 5 months. What is your opinion of goats? I am a goat fan. Goats are cool. Got nothing against goats. My aunt and uncle raise goats, and I've had to watch them in the past. They're mean, though. There's a really cute one, and then there's a big one that always picks on the other one. So I guess they're like people, you know? There's good ones and bad ones. You just hopefully reward the good ones. Let's see. The S20 and S20 Plus are extremely similar, but there's $200 between them. Like, just like, I know, I get it. The iPhone 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Max, they have a lot of similarities, and pretty much the only difference is the screen size and the battery packs. But there's only a $100 difference there. Why is the S20 and S20 Plus $200 difference? That's twice the gap for what? What are you getting out of that Plus model? That's the thing I think is more overpriced. The S20 Ultra I kind of get with the hardware they put in that camera, the size of it. Plus it's got the millimeter wave 5G, which who cares? I honestly have never heard of someone complain about the capability of what 4G can handle. We brought that up on the pod. We recorded the podcast yesterday. It'll be up on Monday. But I don't know of any. There's all these analysts that keep saying 5G is going to be heavily in demand, and we want to make a 5G device or iPhone or Android, whatever. We got to get 5G phones out into the market. I've never met anyone who asked for that. I want my next phone to be a 5G phone. That's just never come up in conversation. Does anyone... I don't get it. I don't get it. I've got quite the moves. Yes, I do. I'm an excellent dancer. Thank you. Okay, we got a serious one here from Overachiever. He says, "Hey Drew, what are your thoughts on Kobe Bryant's death? I live in Los Angeles, and everywhere it says Rip Kobe on all public transportation. Digital signs, it's a big loss, and I didn't know Kobe was trying to get into the entertainment industry." Yeah, I'm not. I don't follow sports that heavily, but I did hear about it, and it was really, really heartbreaking to hear about because I knew he was a very inspirational figure to a lot of people. It's not like I didn't know who he was. I just I didn't follow him very closely. I wasn't like seeing what he was doing regularly. But once I heard about the crash, you know, it shook the internet, and all of my basketball friends were really hurt by it, and yeah, it was terrible. It was just one of those really, really sad things, and that's my sympathies to the family. That's all I got for you. I mean, I'm sad to say I didn't know much about him until after, but that's been the situation with a lot of celebrity deaths. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that I don't follow very closely, but again, still doesn't make it any less sad. It's still really heartbreaking to hear about, especially given the daughter was on the helicopter, and yeah, it just makes you think. It's crazy that like someone could be so positive on those around them and try to help people and be so, you know, be so kind and be so friendly, and be doing really, really great things with their success. Not only just, it's very easy to just grow up and be rich and be very selfish, but he was clearly someone who wanted to give back and spend a lot of time with others. And when you're really kind and you're really friendly like that, and that bad things still happen to those people. It just makes you think differently about the world and what happens to all of us, and how precious life is. That we can be really successful, and we can make these great plans for ourselves, and we can try to make life the best we can, and yet still just stuff like that happens. It's weird. It's crazy. Anyway, let's see. Mr. Spider-Cat, thank you for subbing with Twitch Prime for 10 months as well. Okay, Michael's probably in agreement with me. He's saying the S20 Ultra price is fine, but the S20 Plus should be $100 cheaper. I probably agree with that. I don't know of many other differences between S20 and S20 Plus, so the storage is the same. They all start with 128 gigs. And I also found it interesting that on the Galaxy S10 last year, you could get a terabyte internally, and they removed that. Doesn't that say something about how many people actually utilize a terabyte on a phone? I think even with expandable storage, I believe that's not the same thing. Like, can you write 8K video to a micro SD? Because I thought the expandable storage in Samsung phones were always slower. Like, yes, you can add a micro SD to the device, but it's not going to write at the same speed as internally based storage. So, I don't know. Only reason I'm not fed up with the S20 prices is because of the Note 10 Lite, which is all I ever wanted Samsung to make. Yeah, the Lite, they definitely make cheaper phones. It's just the S lineup, I think, is getting such backlash and kind of such a stir in the tech community because that's not the angle the S lineup. It's almost like it's a brand new lineup. They branded it like it's the sequel to the S10, but it's so much higher than the S10. Given that lineup with the S10e started at 750 and scaled up to, a bit over 1,000, but not starting at 1,000. That's almost like the fact that you can, I think the S10 Plus started at 900 or around 1,000, but no, you can't write 8K to a micro SD as far as I know. Yeah, that's what I mean though. It's like, it's not, expandable storage should not be treated the same way internal storage is treated. A lot of people are like, yeah, but you can upgrade it. It's like, yeah, but you can't do all the same stuff. I mean, if you need 1.5 terabytes on your phone, I assume it's for a reason. Maybe you just, I don't know, want to have 80 million billion songs on your phone, but I feel like it would have more to do with someone recording high resolution video. Like, I think it's good that they ship 128 gig standard, given they let you record in 8K, which probably takes up a ton of storage. I know they cap it at 5 minutes, but I don't care. I still think that's impressive. The S10 Plus was 1,000. Okay, so they went from, I mean, that's nearly, that was like their higher end model. I mean, I guess we're not counting in the S10 Plus 5G, but they just, overall price points shifted so drastically year over year. Apple's increased prices with iPhones in the past, but I don't know if they've ever been that much. That's such a drastic overturn from saying like S10 lineup starts at 750, now it starts at 1,000 and scales up to maximum like 1,600. That's so much. Should I upgrade my 10 to 12, Drew? If you want, I don't care. If you feel like it. They subscribe. Who subscribed? iOS Farm Mark. I don't know how to pronounce these names, but thank you. I appreciate the Twitch Prime. Thank you very much. Let's see. Do you know what codec the 8K is in? I assume it's HEVC. I'd be very surprised if they could pull that off with AVI. Thoughts on the Z Flip? I ordered one. In case some of you don't follow my Twitter, I have ordered one, and it should get here on Wednesday. So that's my first official foldable phone. I do have some thoughts on it. I guess I haven't formulated much of an opinion since the last video I did on it, but the one thing I think I wanted to talk about was this ultra-thin glass. That was kind of the wild card that they dropped at us at the event, something that we weren't necessarily sure about. Everything else we got pretty much right. The price point, we were pretty much on the spot. What is it with foldables and being $20 less than we expect? Like with the Galaxy Fold, it was like, it's going to cost $2,000, and it comes out and it's $1,980. I don't know why they want it to be $20 cheaper. Just do $99. That's what everyone else does. Or I don't know. I don't actually like the $99 thing. I wish companies would just make it a flat zero. I don't care. I don't. If a phone costs $999. I'm just gonna say it costs $1,000. I'm not the guy to bring up it's $999 actually. Same thing with the Z Flip. It costs $1,380. I'm just gonna say it costs $1,400 before you factor in sales tax. It's well over that. So I don't know why they do that, but we pretty much got everything about the Z Flip right. We saw the leaked images of it. I was like, yeah, that's definitely it. Samsung does not care about keeping that kind of stuff internally very much. They're very much like, oh no, look, these phones, they leaked out. Don't talk about them. And then they publish pictures of the S20 and the new Galaxy Buds on the website before the event even happens. That's why they dropped the Z Flip commercial at the Oscars before the event even happened. It kind of ruins the unveiling, but they intentionally leak stuff all the time. So the one thing though that I thought was bizarre was this ultra thin glass. My issue with ultra thin glass is that it bumps up against the laws of physics that you just can't really have a durable material that can be warped back and forth repeatedly. If you want something that's structurally sound and doesn't scratch super easy and isn't super fragile, it cannot warp back and forth. It has to be hard and solid. That's what glass is. But this ultra thin glass, which allows it to bend and warp back and forth repeatedly with the Z Flip, appears to have all the same issues plastic has. You know, it wasn't a branding issue. We weren't complaining about the Galaxy Fold because of the texture of the display. The complaints were it's plastic, which means it has a crease, and that crease is noticeable both from a physical, touching the display, and also from a visible standpoint. That crease is kind of weird. We're not used to that. It's kind of annoying. Snazzy Labs tweeted that it was a deal breaker for him on the Z Flip. He was like, "Oh, this is cool." After a few hours, that crease makes it terrible. Second is durability. So the fact that on the Galaxy Fold, when you take it out of the box, it's like, don't press the screen with a fingernail, which I did my whole rant on. I was like, you're saying that a touch display can't be touched with a fingernail. They're like, be very, very careful. It's like the durability of tissue paper, and we don't want you being able to, put hard objects on this. Isn't good. And third, you can't even put a screen protector on it. So they're like, don't let debris get on there because this display is going to scratch very easily. And don't put a screen protector or any kind of adhesive on the display because if you try to pull it off, it'll just break the whole thing. So that defeats the point of a screen protector. Yeah, you can put one on once, but if it gets all scratched up and you're ready to remove it, it can destroy the display permanently. So that defeats the point of a screen protector in the first place. And I've already seen people tweeting out pictures of the Z Flip, and they're like, I don't know how this happened, but on day one, it has this super noticeable scratch, and there's no way to combat that. A lot of people, glass is a lot more durable than what appears to be on the Z Flip, but people still put screen protectors on it so that, the protector can get damaged and then they can pull it off when they're done with it. So that's my issue with this ultra thin glass thing is that it's apparently not plastic, but all of the negatives that plastic brought to the foldable still applies. Because when you open the Z Flip, they give you all the same disclosures, and it seems to have a crease, and it's still like, don't put screen protectors on this, and it can't take much. It's not water or dust resistant. It's still very fragile. So the only thing that's changed is apparently the texture. But I don't remember that being the complaint. I don't think people were complaining about the Galaxy Fold because the texture of plastic. It was what plastic caused. It was that the plastic was weak. Plastic was damaged easily. Plastic couldn't take screen protectors and caused a crease. We still have all the same issues as plastic. It's just not plastic now. So I don't know how they can really get away with calling it glass, but maybe it's technologically glass. Let's see. It's a psychological trick. Yeah, the psychology of it I get. It's just a marketing term, but I guess that's what 5G is. Why do we need a folding phone again? Thank you. Good question. No one asked for these either. Do you know the YouTube tech parody channel Samtime? Yes, I've been featured in his videos several times. I know who he is. Yi Hirasawa, thank you for subbing with Twitch Prime for 17 months. Holy cow, that's a long time. Thank you very much for your continued support. What HomeKit smart light do you use? It's called Lifix, Lifx. It doesn't require a hub like the Philips bulbs do, and they're a lot cheaper, so that's why I use them. They're not as reliable. There's a lot of times where they just won't respond to Siri very much, but then I go into the Home app and they work. Other times they work great. Sometimes they don't. I think it depends heavily on the router. Once I started using them, I realized, oh, this is probably why Philips bulbs require a hub, is because they want it to work more reliably. And I'm okay with them being somewhat unreliable if they're way cheaper, because at the end of the day, it's just a light bulb. I don't interact with it that heavily. It's just on or off. And I'd say like 80 to 90% of the time, Siri communicates with them just fine. But occasionally, there's a bit of latency there, and they don't respond right away, and that can get a little bit annoying. So, full disclosure, they're not perfect. They don't work flawlessly, but they are significantly cheaper, so I don't care. I deal with it. Um, I prefer smart sockets to smart lights because the lights eventually die out, but the socket doesn't. Um, yeah, but okay, sure. I do have a smart outlet somewhere. I'm not using it right now, but usually, usually I'm in a situation where like all the lights I'm using right now, they just have. I need them to be a certain brightness, and I like having color temperature of them. With an outlet, it's on or off. With a smart bulb, you can adjust it to be like 10%, 20%, 100%. Or with this light bulb behind me, it can be blue, red, green, whatever. It can just adjust color dynamically, which I like. What's the price difference between the 11 Max and S20 Plus? S20 Plus is $100 more than the most expensive iPhone starting price. I know that it has a lot more specs. That's the problem. Every time I bring up that it's more expensive, people are like, "Yeah, but you're getting this and you're getting this." I'm like, "That's not what I'm talking about." If we're just comparing price, in the same way that uh, what's another good example? The S10e is cheaper than the 11 Pro Max. The 11 Pro Max can do a lot of things the S10e can't, but yeah, when we're just talking about price, let's get it straight. The S20s will be 200 to 300 in a month. Yeah, the resale values shoots down real quick. So if I was a Samsung fanboy and I really really enjoyed their phones, or if I was more of a Samsung oriented YouTube channel, I would probably buy one at launch, review it, return it, wait a couple months, and then buy it and find it for like hundreds of dollars cheaper because the resale value does not hold up very well. Yeah, when are we getting folding AirPods? Good question. Let's see. There's no arguably reason to choose S20s over 11 Pro Max besides camera feature. I don't know about Geekbench and 120 hertz, but I don't see a difference. It all comes down to personal preference. There is definitely reasons. I mean, some people care about screen to body ratio. Some people prefer Android to iOS. The notch on the front of the iPhones has not changed in years, and if someone needs the front of the phone to change every single time they upgrade their phone, I can understand why someone wouldn't want a Pro Max over the S20. Still a really good camera. But yeah, the issue I have with that sentiment, because a lot of people just say Apple's not innovative anymore because the last 3 generations of iPhone from the front have looked identical. You can't even tell them the difference. But my response to that is, if you're expecting phone upgrades to only be substantial if you can see the difference from the front, you're going to be really bored with smartphones very quickly, okay? Because it's not going to change very much from here on out. What can they do from here on out? They can change the little curved edges a little bit. They can get the camera underneath the display, but that's not going to change the way you use it. From an aesthetic standpoint, it's like, oh, there was a hole there next year. Oh, now there's not a hole there. Now it's a pop-up, or now it's under the display. I mean, it's not going to be very interesting from here on out. For the next 10 years, I can confidently tell you the front of phones is not going to change much at all. It's going to be very, very small incremental upgrades to the front of the device, and you don't use the back of the phone. I think maybe some of you do, but I mean, you don't really see the back of it, which is the only thing, sadly, that changes half the time these days because all they can do is update the cameras. But yeah, we're kind of past the peak smartphone in response to that Marquez video about have we reached peak smartphone? Obviously, when time goes on, smartphones will get better. I'm not saying that they're not getting better. They definitely will. In 10 years from now, we're going to have a substantially better iPhone and substantially better Galaxy than we have today. But in my opinion, the age of substantial year-over-year upgrades has ended. I don't think we're ever going to get a year-over-year upgrade as substantial as we did in 2017. Just the sheer number of changes between the iPhone 7 and iPhone 10, we're never going to resemble that again. I don't think there's anything or any type of new technology or new breakthrough that we could come up with that would be that substantial. Yes, it will improve, but it won't improve that much. It's going to be smaller upgrades from here on out. In the next 10 years, you can see bezels shrink, you can see cameras go under the display, you can see more capacitive buttons, maybe you can see ProMotion, you can see higher refresh rates, brighter displays. Yes, all helpful and all are going to be appreciated, and I'm going to be there on launch day for each one buying it, but they'll never be as substantial as years prior. It's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and Apple's going to have a harder and harder time getting people to put out that much money each year, which is, I think, why they're pushing the iPhone upgrade program so much. Is you get people locked into that contract, and they're comfortable with it, and they're just used to upgrading once a year, and this is their monthly bill for their phone, and that's what they're comfortable with. You get them hooked into it now, because 10 years from now, it's probably going to be so tiny, so little changes are made. But if people are accustomed to just being in that program where they trade in their old one, get the new one, they won't even think much about it. They're just going to be like, no, that's my phone bill. I don't even think, it's just the iPhone bill. Once a month, I pay that, and every year, I get the latest thing. Doesn't matter if the latest thing is that good or that much better. That's just what I'm comfortable with. So Tim Cook is very smart to orient the business around services. Let's put it that way. But the iPhone doesn't fold, right? Did you see? Yeah, answered that, Matt K. Sorry. Some of you, I can just tell what you're saying in the chat, so I just answered your own question there. Depreciation is insane for Samsung. I'm sticking to notes for stylus and calculator pop-up. Super useful for productivity. Need a folding iPad. Don't we already have one? I'm so funny! iPad Pro bent! I am master of comedy. Let's see. Do you think the iPhone SE2, iPhone 9 will actually come out? Yes. Almost everything. I think with like 98, 99% reliability, anything OnLeaks tweets out as a render ends up actually coming out. There's very, very few times OnLeaks will post a render and that phone doesn't exist. Almost never. And he's already tweeted out the design for the iPhone SE. We have supply chain rumors saying it's the next gen SE that's, again, going to look like the iPhone 8 just with an updated internal chip. It's definitely happening. I've heard some people on the inside, or whatever, they could be lying, but I've heard some people on the inside say that due to the coronavirus, it may end up getting delayed a little bit. With pre-orders starting on March 20th and then delivery starting on March 27th. That was just one date I heard brought up, but now they're saying that might be pushed back. I don't know. But it's definitely coming. They're working on it for sure. We've had lots of credible leakers and credible analysts backing it up. And OnLeaks tweeting out the design is a huge indicator because he has a very solid track record. So I would trust him. I don't know if I'll have the frosted glass on the back. I'm not really sure because I'm not in the manufacturing business, obviously, but I wonder if it's cheaper or more expensive to do frosted glass. I feel like if it was around the same price, then they might do frosted because they tested out the frosted glass with the Pro iPhones last year. And I think the feedback for them was very positive. In fact, I was one of them. I told everyone I like the frosted glass backs because it does not attract fingerprints as much. It may be a little bit slippier, but the stainless steel provides enough grip that I didn't feel like I was going to drop the phone or anything. So I just, from an aesthetic standpoint, the frosted glass looks a lot better than a glossy back. And I think given the public response to this was fairly positive, if it doesn't cost much more than regular glossy glass, yeah, they could do it. They could put it on the budget model, and then maybe in 2020 we'll get all frosted glass backs because they were just experimenting a little bit. They kept regular glass on the iPhone 11, and they knew that one would be a big seller. So they were like, okay, you know what? We'll keep it on there because we haven't really heard much complaints about previous glass. But we'll experiment on the Pro. If people like it, then we'll keep pushing it. If they don't like it, then okay, we just did it 1 year. Maybe that's their logic, but I'm not sure. It might be more expensive. If that's the case and it's more expensive to put frosted glass, then probably not. I would not be shocked if the new SE has a glossy back because that would match the iPhone 11 a lot better. So that would make perfect sense to me. Let's see. What's the iPhone? Wasn't the iPhone? Yes, very funny. There's new case leaks for the iPhone SE2. Why do people call that case leaks? It's literally the iPhone 8. It's just an iPhone 8 with a new CPU. And then people are like, we have the new case renders. It's like, so you made an iPhone 8 case. Congrats. We know it's the same size. It's like, what? I don't know. I got emails from case companies, and they're like, would you like to try our early access iPhone SE case that we made? I was like, is this a new? It's not a new form factor or anything. I don't know what they think they're getting. I very much doubt it will be called the iPhone 9. They surely wouldn't go backwards. I mean, it makes sense from a tech community standpoint. I get why people want to call it the 9 because it's not quite 10. 10 being, notch, Face ID, no home button. But it is better than the 8. So I get what people are saying, like, oh, it'll be the 9. But from a marketing standpoint, no, Apple would not do that. I think that there's probably a lot of weight held to what Samsung is doing with, like the higher the number, the people think it's newer, people think it's better. You don't want to release the Galaxy S11 if Apple's been shipping iPhone 11s for however many months now. You want to have a number that's higher because that makes it sound cooler. It's very stupid. I'm mad that companies do that, but it probably works. I'm more mad that customers are probably that stupid that they actually think that way. It's got a higher number, but yeah, I think it would be not a good idea to call the new iPhone in 2020 iPhone 9 because then people will instantly look at it as inferior and old and dated. And it is in a lot of ways with its design. It's not OLED. It's got a home button. It's still got Touch ID. There's no notch or anything. Very traditional design. So I get that part of it, but they'll think of something more classy. They'll probably want to pitch this new iPhone as a concentration of iPhone hardware and not necessarily a compromise. It's just like, we know there are people out there that like the home button, so we very graciously and thoughtfully decided to bring it back. And it's like, you're just recycling an old design. We get it, but they don't bring that up on stage. Anyway, Overachiever donated. Says, a little off topic, Andrew. I really enjoyed your Taylors of Talks vlog on marriage. Thought it was really cool and insightful. I'm 2 years younger than you, and I think I have a chance with this girl. We've been good friends with each other for a little while, and my family ships me. But her and I haven't told her my feelings about her yet. Ooh, exciting! We got some crush action going on in the chat. Congratulations, Overachiever. That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that. I think there's very much a predetermined notion on the internet that marriage is this horrible, terrible thing that is about becoming an adult and losing all freedom. And I've experienced quite the opposite. It's not been accurate for me. Me and my wife are very compatible, luckily, and we did a lot of premarital counseling, which I would recommend to everybody. I don't care who you are, what your beliefs are, or anything. Just before you get married, try to find someone who can give you premarital counseling. It's an excellent choice to make because you will figure out a lot of things that you don't want to figure out when you're already married. It's a highly recommend. It's not something you take because you're fighting. When I told people I was taking premarital counseling, a lot of them thought like, "Oh man, already you guys are fighting. What's wrong? Why do you need counseling?" It's like, it's not. You don't take premarital counseling because you're fighting. You take premarital counseling so you know how to fight. It's not about never fighting because that does happen with all couples. It's not something you want to avoid. In fact, fighting to a certain extent is a good thing. But understanding how to and how to fight fair is all figured out during counseling, and we've figured out a ton of communication things that we use, and roles, expectations, huge things that we see in other married couples that did not take premarital counseling. So anyway, that's all I can recommend for you. No, that's not tech related. Sorry. Will the next one be S21 or S30? Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know what the next S phone. I think they should go off the year because they could almost never be wrong with that from here on out, right? Like, if next year it'll be 2021, so then you do S21. I don't know, just ending it with the year, but not having to say the entire year. We don't have to say 2021. You can just say 21, the S21. I like that. I hope they do that. It actually makes a lick of sense if they just base it off the year we're in. I would recommend that, but I don't know. Maybe they're stupid. Maybe they'll go off the year. I guess it's not too stupid to go by tens. S20, S30, S40. It makes less sense, but if they're trying to compete more with Huawei now, I guess it kind of lines up with what Huawei's been doing with their smartphones, but I guess it would get really old after like the end of the decade, because near the end of 2020s you would be on S90, and then do you want to say S100 or S Century? I don't know. I don't know. It gets weird a lot faster. So you would have a lot better longevity if you just based it off the year. So that's what I hope they do. LG goes by 10 too. I know. I don't really like that either. It's just adding zeros unnecessarily. LG's names suck. They got way too complicated naming scheme with the V thin Q squared. It just gets old really quickly. I don't like that. Samsung had a normal product name and they just had to ruin it. I wouldn't say it's completely ruined. They were consistent. I get it. They've ruined their consistency, but I do agree that it wasn't going to work for them to just keep adding numbers year after year. S11, S12, okay, we can follow that. But once you start getting into S13, S14, S15, S16, S17, like, then it's just too complicated. There's too many syllables. And it feels a little weird. But if they base it off of just the year we're in, and that's their logic for it, is it's going to be S followed by the year, I can follow that logic a little bit. So I'm okay with them breaking from their normal naming scheme a little bit, but not too much. I give them a pass with S20 because you're doubling, so it's a nice even like 10 to 20, and it's 2020. But if they keep doing 10s, then I'm going to be a little bit annoyed. That's going to be frustrating. Do you think Samsung phones are boring? Boring's very subjective. I think most phones are boring these days. I'm not. If you're like heavily engrossed in the tech community and you care about stuff like 8K video on a phone and 120 hertz ProMotion and a super telephoto zoom, then no, it's not that boring. In fact, year-over-year upgrades, the S20 is pretty substantial compared to previous years, like the S8 to the S9. It was like, okay, ooh, variable aperture. That doesn't do much. Cool. It's like the chin's a little smaller. That's not very exciting. But I'm a big fan of 120 hertz. I like vlogging with my smartphone camera, so finding out that there's a phone with 8K video on it's really impressive to me. I think that's cool. And the camera's performance on the zoom looks really impressive. So to me, it's not boring. But, if I tried to explain the S20 changes to my parents, that would be the most boring. That I could not pay them to get excited for the S20. I could not convince an everyday person that the S20 is an exciting phone. Well, not even just my parent. Like when my wife came home after I watched the S20 event, and I was like, "Hey, just finished the video. I got to upload it real quick, honey. It's the S20 recap, and I actually think it's really cool. They had this new camera, and it's a ProMotion display and everything. Sorry, it's not Apple, so it's a 120 hertz display." And the displays are enormous. They're almost 7 inches, and the cameras can zoom in super far. I did tell my wife all that stuff. She'd be like, okay, cool, I guess. To her, that would be insanely boring. Most people on Earth, it's probably very boring. But we're in the tech community. This is our job. This is my passion. This is what I follow. And while tech specs aren't everything, they do help. Tech specs don't hurt. Having good specs, it's not everything, like I said, but it does help. It does help sell your phone. I can't get very excited for a phone that has solid specs. That's why, if you've been watching my videos for years, you should know that me getting excited for the Galaxy S phone is not new. It seems like every year Samsung releases a new S upgrade, and I usually have pretty nice things to say about it, at least at the event. Sometimes when I buy the phone and actually start using it, I have some issues with it, but for the most part, very positive reviews I've given them over the years, like ever since the Attic days. Way back in the Attic days, before the iPhone 10 even came out, I tried the Galaxy S8. I bought that and reviewed it, and in my review said it made me want to ditch my iPhone. I was really, really close because I love the hardware, and I love the wireless charging, and I love the display, and I loved that it felt like they were beating Apple to the punch with the bezel-less trend. I loved the S8 when I first got it. And I didn't even return that phone, actually. I held on to that. I decided I was just going to keep it. But keep in mind, context matters heavily. So when I was coming from an iPhone 7 Plus, which in my opinion was a decent phone, but compared to the S8, it was just night and day. Those were totally different phones. And moving to the S8, I was like, dang, this is awesome. Like, I love what they did with this. I had very positive things to say about it, but in time it didn't age very well. I ran into more and more software bugs and software glitches to the point that I couldn't even use the thing. So it did not age very well for me, and I ended up selling it. I didn't hang on to it permanently, but for the 3 months that I did have it, I really enjoyed it up until the end there. But ultimately, it was that ecosystem and that compatibility with my other Apple devices that kept me on the iPhone. But I every single year, pretty much, Samsung will release a phone that I'm like, dang, I want this on the iPhone. So this isn't new. A lot of people were like, oh my god, even the Apple sheep says the S20 is cool. I'm like, I do this every year. This is not out of the ordinary. Um, I was very tempted with the S8. S8 was probably the closest I've ever been to switching away from iOS because I was just so comfortable with that phone. The cameras on it were wonderful. I love the S8 camera. They were great. Um, I love the size of the display and everything, and the biometrics were okay. They weren't great. There were some issues I had with it now that I'm thinking back. But again, it was going from a 7 Plus to the S8 was like, ah, this is so much better in so many ways. But software is a huge chunk of the experience. If specs were the only thing that mattered, Apple would be dead by now. But software is a big factor. And now Apple's hardware has caught up, in my opinion. There's some things I want them to take from the S20, but it's not night and day difference like the 7 Plus and S8 were. Those were so much drastically different products in so many different hardware senses um, that it was very hard to not fall in love with the S8. But now that we have things like the 11 Pro Max with its great battery life and its awesome display and the Face ID and the biometrics being so much better now and the cameras on it being awesome and stuff like that, switching from the 11 Pro Max to the S20, I can appreciate a lot of it. I can be very thankful and be like, yes, I want this, I love this, this is awesome, but it's not as night and day as it once was. Overachiever donated, how much storage does 8K take up considering that you can now be recorded on a phone? I think someone pointed it out. I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe some of you can look this up. You're not doing anything. You're watching me. You're not very productive. I think it was 600 megabytes a minute. That's quite a bit. That means you can only record 5-minute clips at a time and then it ends. But I think that means yeah, you would easily okay, 2-minute video. Now you've taken up 1.2 gigs of video, which is a lot. That's a lot. That's very quick. Smartphones always compress things. It's not 8K. That's the same on the Red cameras. It's not like that. But I've never shot anything in 8K before. That's why I'm excited for it. I don't have a single camera available to me that can support that. I think, when did the iPhone get 4K? Was that the 6S? I'm trying to remember. I think I bought a 4K camera before I had an iPhone that can shoot in 4K. Because I remember getting that Lumix FZ1000. I think I got that before I got my 7 Plus. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did because I shot most of my videos on that Lumix camera. So my first 4K camera was an actual DSLR that I shot a ton of my videos on. A ton of my videos that are still one of the highest viewed on my channel were shot on that camera. But I didn't get 4K on my phone until later. Whereas this, I have never owned or used a camera that was capable of 8K, and now the S20 was the first one. I know the 6S was the first one to have 4K, but I didn't buy the 6S. That came out before I was a regular tech reviewer. I was doing tech videos, but I was still in the mindset back when the 6S came out of buying, one phone every 2 years, and then once my channel started picking up traction, that's when I bought the iPhone 7, and I was like, okay, we're talking about it so much, I have to get it for review purposes. And then the iPhone 10 was hyping up so much, that's when I realized, okay, if I'm gonna make a career out of talking about tech stuff, I'm pretty much gonna have to buy the new iPhone every year. That's just gonna be part of the job, and it pays for itself. I remember when the 6S got 4K. I remember that event. I was in college, I believe. Remember the Apple event happened, and I was like, oh, let me go look it up. Let me see if it has it. And yeah, I remember that. I was like, yes, but that was not the first iPhone to. It was not the first phone to have a 4K camera. It had been on the Galaxy Note phones in the past, so I was just hoping Apple would do it, and they did. Let's see. If the next iPhone doesn't have 120 hertz ProMotion, it will be a sad day indeed. Yeah, I will be pretty depressed by it, even though I would appreciate it and I would get used to it within a couple days, but still, it's something that like now the Pixel's doing high refresh rate, OnePlus is doing high refresh rate, Samsung's doing high refresh rate. It would feel very, very lacking if Apple did not do it as well. And it's killing me because they've done it on the iPad, so it's not like they can't do it. And Apple buys their displays from Samsung, who is doing it for OnePlus and their own phones now. It just feels like they have to. Like they have to. You can only do it on the Pro phones. That's fine. Like I don't need ProMotion on all the phones. If you need to make one that's better at battery life and like the 5.4-inch iPhone, I'm really concerned about battery life on that thing because that's going to be so freaking small. That's going to be smaller than the iPhone 8. And you can't really fit a huge battery pack in a phone that small. So yeah, the resolution of the display will be a lot lower, but still, I feel like battery-wise, it's probably going to be a big step down from where we are on the iPhone 11 series. So hopefully the A14 chip helps with that, being it's a 5 nanometer chip, so power efficiency can be improved a little bit. But I think that for the cheaper phones, like the regular 12s coming or whatever, those can just stick with 60 hertz. That's fine. They got to save money and they got to appeal to the masses, and the masses don't care about 120 hertz. No one notices that kind of thing. But if it's a Pro model, it's for the pros, so we get to lean into that a little bit and say, yes, we do appreciate higher refresh rates. We love it on the iPad Pro, so it would be great if they brought it to the iPhone. Probably waiting for variable refresh rate, like on all iPads. All the Android phones can switch between 120 and 90 and 60. Well, if the iPad can do it, then I think the iPhones should do it. They can figure it out. You know, the iPad got True Tone first, and then later they got it to the iPhones. Yeah, they'll they'll probably call it ProMotion because it'll be a variable refresh rate. So it's, dynamically adjust depending on what you're doing. They've already got Fortnite to support 120 hertz on the iPad. So Apple could bring that up in their event. They could be like, now you can play 120 hertz games on the iPhone at launch, unlike, other gaming phones in the past, which are like, you can play Pac-Man at 120 hertz. Wow, cool. Yeah, so they got to do it. There's no way it'll just be locked at 120. Let's see. There's the Discord gang. Yep, check out the Discord. We ban everyone. I'm going on vacation and my phone, Switch, earbuds, and Lenovo laptop all have USB-C. I finally get to pack with one cable. I know that some people were complaining about USB-C because the Nintendo Switch can apparently be bricked if you use the wrong cable. But that's not USB-C's fault. That's Nintendo's fault because there are lots of devices that aren't bricked when you plug it in with a USB-C cable. So I don't know what they did with the Nintendo Switch, but people were blaming it on the port for that, when I just think that's poor hardware. Like, you can make USB-C that doesn't break as soon as you plug in a cable that's not, what comes with it. The Switch is weird. I don't think that's the standard. What are your thoughts on YouTubers shooting in 24 FPS? I mean, they probably like that. It's a very efficient frame rate to shoot at. You can get high resolutions at a low storage amount. 60 FPS definitely takes up a lot more storage, so I get why people do it. It's the cinematic standard. Movies and everything are shot at 24. I just happen to prefer 60. I think it looks more lifelike. I think it looks more natural. It's closer to what the human eye sees. And if we're trying to make videos where it's like you're having a conversation with me or you're looking at me explaining something to you like I am right now, might as well make it look as natural and as lifelike as possible. So that's why I shoot at 60. I like the look of it. To me, it's more visually pleasing than lower frame rates. But most people don't shoot at 60. I get that. But when they do, I appreciate it. And I notice it across all devices. It's not like 4K and 8K, where you can only notice these things on certain displays at certain sizes. And refresh rate is way more noticeable across. Like, I can see 60 FPS on my phone. I can see it on a tablet. I can see it on a TV. It doesn't matter. I know that eyes don't have a frame rate, but I'm saying that it's more lifelike. This is why games are at 60, is because it's closer to reality. I'm not saying the eyes have a refresh rate. I charge my Switch with my MacBook Pro charger all the time. Well, there you go. I don't know what y'all are complaining about. There's still a bunch of Lightning defenders because apparently Dust can get in the USB-C port too. Is that a video you're working on with the iMac behind you? Uh, there's a video I'm watching on that screen on the iMac display, but next to it is my BenQ monitor. That's usually what's running Final Cut, and then that monitor is always running Discord, so I can always see what's happening. I don't always say anything, but I can always see what's happening. We got some bits from Overachiever. How much of a price drop will the 2018 iPad Pro get once the 2020 iPad Pro releases? I'm heavily considering getting the 2018 model after the new one. Yeah, that's a good question. It'll probably not be sold by Apple. Usually when they do incremental updates like that, which the 2020 iPad Pro is going to be very incremental, it's going to be mostly like, new camera, whoa! So if that's the case, I highly doubt they'll keep the 2018 Pros around, which means that you could probably find them for certified refurbished or on Amazon or from Best Buy. Third parties will have them around. Probably start the 11-inch Pro around $650. I've seen them go on sale for $650 already. And the 2020 models will probably push it down to $650 like standard, so it's not even on sale anymore. That's just what it costs. So I could see that happening. $650 sounds reasonable for the 11-inch model. For the 13-inch model, I don't know. What's the price difference there? Is it? There's like $200 between the two. That's kind of substantial. It is a larger display though. It's a different aspect ratio and everything. Maybe 750 or 800, something like that. Still waiting on someone to make a valid video on why I need to 100 times zoom on a phone. No, it's not. It's more for flex. You know, there's not very many people that need to record 4K at 60 on their phone, but you can. If you're spending that much money, it should be able to do some impressive things, and that's one of the impressive things. So I don't. You don't want to play the need game in the tech space because it ends very quickly. If you want to bicker about what does a phone need to do, it can basically come down to, can it take pictures, can it send texts, and can it look at YouTube videos? Okay, it doesn't need that. You know, it doesn't need to shoot at 4K. It doesn't need to have stereo speakers. It doesn't need water resistant. It can. That's a slippery slope. So I don't go into the you don't need to do that. But when it comes to phones that have heavily compromises for certain features, like a foldable, where it's like super expensive and the specs aren't even that great, then I'm like, why choose that over this? You know, if it's just expensive and it has amazing specs, okay, it's going to be a small demographic, but it'll be there. Do you shoot ProRes on your Blackmagic Pocket Cinema? I can. I don't think I do. I think I shoot at 422 or something. I don't remember all the codec names. They can do it, but I don't. Oh, sorry. Michael donated 100 bits. Got some bits from a survey, so have $1. Also, so happy I could make this live stream. First one in a while. Yeah, you haven't been able to make a few. I know. You've always been busy. But thank you for the 100 bits. Where's the survey? I want to take the survey, get 100 bits. I did. I tweeted that Essential was officially dead, which doesn't shock me. John Prosser brought it up in one of his front page tech episodes, and I thought he brought up some good points about it. You can't enter the smartphone space with a flagship. You have to start out with the low end because, you know, market adoption is more important than profit. Pretty much agree with everything he said. But yeah, I'm kind of shocked Essential made it this far. Honestly, I thought they were going to die out in 2018 or 19 because they'd only released one product. It didn't sell very well. I enjoyed it. I tried the Essential phone. I thought it was pretty cool. It came out before the iPhone 10 did, and it was neat. I liked it. Very original design and decent specs, decent performance, interesting build. You know, I thought it was an overall decent Android phone. It was just they started out a little too expensive, and they lowered the price, but I think they lowered it so low that it wasn't even profitable. So they must have framed the company, you know, having Andy Rubin did not help because, you know, he turned into a jerk. But, they just didn't have good enough ideas to sustain the company long term. So, yeah, didn't work out. Doesn't shock me. I'm just, I'm just shocked that they lasted as long as they did. They made it to 2020. Their first product was 2017. I don't know how they last that long. Does that mean I can't use the Essential phone that looks like a TV remote? I know someone showed me a picture of what the keyboard on it looked like. It looked so ridiculous. They had to like drastically redesign the keyboard on that phone to get it to work, and it looks so dumb. I have no idea why that got out of the concept phase. It would have taken like one sane mind to look at that thing and been like, nope, that's not going to work. It's way too thin, and we need our phones to have a certain amount of width, otherwise they're not practical. Don't make that. And then they started making them, and I was like, ugh, God. Yeah, it wasn't going well for them. I wish they would have just listened to what people said about the original Essential phone. Everyone was saying like the exact same things. When they came out with the Essential phone, everyone was like, this is pretty cool. The camera could use some work, and it needs wireless charging, and it needs water resistance and stereo speed. It needed a few things, but it was like so close to being great. It was just like a couple things away from being a great phone. And instead they went off and did something completely different. I don't before the scandal and everything, I'm kind of surprised no one bought them out. For a while there was talk that Amazon was going to buy them out and just buy their smartphone division. But once the scandal came out about Andy Rubin, I bet all the big companies were like, nope, no one's going to buy them now. No one wants to buy into that company. No one wants to be like, oh, you paid Andy Rubin how much? It's like, no. Don't want to get involved with that. The Essential phone is not a phone, it's art. Okay, well, see how well art sells. They could have had something special if they went mid-range. Even OnePlus doesn't get its third OS update as fast as Essential. Yeah, I mean, OnePlus is not really a startup, though. They're like a division of Oppo, so it makes sense as to why they don't price their phone so high, is because they can deal with a lot smaller profit margins. But yeah, probably the same people who thought of the Sonic movie first design. That's hilarious. Like the movies like Cats. You must have seen the memes. It was famous, but the movie tanked, obviously, understandably. But what's amazing to me is that there's animation that gets made like that, and it gets put into film and distributed, and they like release trailers, and at no point in that entire process did anyone speak up. Like, no one in that entire creative process was like, this doesn't look good. I don't think we should do this. No one brings that up. Like, they could have just picked up any stranger off the side of the road, any person, any pedestrian walking by on the sidewalk. Be like, hey, can you look at this really quick? Tell me what you think. Does no one do that in the film industry? Some people must. How does that still not happen? How can you get like tens and tens of millions of dollars put into a project, and at no point during the development you were like, we should show this to someone and see what they think? You could just pick up one person off the road and they were like, what do you think? Does this look good? And they're like, no, that looks terrible. I would not watch that movie. And you would have been done. You could have had one sample, one single person sample. Let's just do a poll of one person who's not working on the project, obviously, because the CG artists and the director and everything, they're distracted by the vision. So just bring in one person. What do you think? Does this look good? No. Okay. We shouldn't do this. They didn't want to do it. How much did they pay Taylor Swift to do that? Probably a lot. I mean, they lost a ton of money on the project, but I don't think Taylor Swift would do that for cheap. It's Taylor Swift. Everyone who was in that movie probably got paid millions of dollars. They just have to live with the embarrassment for the rest of their lives. What's the future of the app look like? Again, like I've said in previous streams, I'm not the developer. I'm not the one coding it. It's handled by a team of fans, and they all have other projects in life they got to deal with, so it's not something we have like a set hard deadline on. They recently think they found a way to make the videos on the server run a little bit better, so we're experimenting with that, but nothing very concrete, so I have no updates. I know about as much as you do. A little bit more, but that's about it. But yeah, Rip Essential. Once again, another smartphone trying to enter the game. Well, they also came out like right when Apple was about to change the game with the iPhone 10. So that was kind of poor timing on their part. It wasn't a very it wasn't a stage of the smartphone industry that was very acceptable to third parties. You know, like, oh, there's a new startup here. Like, it's really hard to enter the smartphone market. Like, think about. I still think back to the Amazon Fire Phone. You know, that the Fire Phone came out before I was doing tech videos, so I never bought one or used one. But it's shocking to me that a company like Amazon could not enter the smartphone space. They have so much resources. They're huge, and they have one of the most popular subscription-based services out there. And they couldn't get it to work. They couldn't get people on board with it, and they just abandoned the project. They were like, nah, yeah. You'd think that if you just have an unlimited budget and smart people that understand how the industry works, you could put something together that was decent enough to compete. You know, that Apple taking a big share of the iPhone market, and Google with Android, and Samsung, and everyone making their phones. But Amazon is, I think, trillion. Yeah, they're like $1 trillion. Yeah, and the specs on it were fine. It wasn't a bad phone. It wasn't a flopper. It had some cool, 3D perspective tech, and the camera was pretty good. But just no one wanted it. It was just as simple as that. No one wanted it. Even if you bought it, you got a free year of Amazon Prime, and it wasn't even that expensive in the first place. So it was kind of an interesting um, it was an interesting middle step of if you buy this phone, if you consider that Amazon Prime costs this much, you actually save quite a bit. It was a decently priced, decent specs, and they had a ton of money they could put into it and just never formulated. Same with Microsoft. They're a big company. They're smart. They got good people in charge of the hardware and stuff. They make really impressive products like the Surface line. I prefer the iPad, but I still admit the Surface devices are really powerful and capable. But yeah, it's really hard to get into that smartphone space. People are just very comfortable with the OS they have and the platform they're comfortable with, and they don't like switching very much. It's just interesting that the Fire Phone didn't work out. It seems like the type of big tech company that could make something worthy. Um, let's see. Overachiever donated, says, which movie was worse, Doolittle or Cats? I haven't seen either of them, but I'm guessing Cats, because Doolittle didn't seem to be as uh, cruising down Uncanny Valley as much as Cats did. Oh yeah, there was a Facebook phone. I remember that. Yeah, that didn't go anywhere either. Must have been. It must have a use. PP Tom over there agrees. What about the point of the 100 times zoom? Are we still talking about the 100 times? It's not even 100 times zoom, people. It's a 30x optical. We don't count digital zoom as actual zoom. That's just called cropping. Digital zoom is just pinch and zoom. You can do a digital zoom on this Twitch stream right now on your phone. You can just pinch in a little bit. You'll zoom. It's cheating. It's a deceitful 100x, okay? Because they're counting it from the ultra wide, which I think is a little unfair, because that would be like Apple calling our current telephoto lens 4x, because technically ultra wide is, zero point 0.5, and then going into telephoto, that would be 4 times zoom. But they don't say that because they consider the standard lens the regular, so it's zooming in twice. So in actuality, if we're comparing it to the standard lens on the S20 Ultra, it's more of a 50x zoom. And also, it's not a 50x lens. It's just a digital zoom on top of a telephoto, which is 30x optical. So it's a lot of it's marketing jargon. It's still very impressive, and it can zoom in a lot better than any other phone, I'm sure. But it's just marketing stuff. I don't know why they wanted to put 100x on the actual lens, because technically you can, but it looks like hot garbage. I just don't understand why people call it 100x. It's not that crazy as people think it is. Why don't you buy a seat from a broken Tesla and make it into an office chair? Well, because I have the best office chair in the world that I'm sitting on right now, and I would have to make it. I don't want to make something. I'm lazy. I'll make videos. I can't make a chair. If I had a chair, it would suck. Have people done? I'm sure they've done that. They take a chair out of a Tesla. Is a Tesla chair that comfortable? How come they're not called chairs when they're in the car? Why do we call it a car seat? Why seat and not car chair? That's what it is. Is there a difference? Yeah, I had a Note 7. I bought one and I thought it was pretty cool. I had a lot of nice things to say about it, but then the obviously big boom happened. I had to return it. They made me return it. That's it. You're right. iPad Pro is better than the current base iPad. Well, yeah, it's just more expensive. Everything Apple Pro did that with his chair. Yep, I remember that. I love this chair though. I like this chair. It's a big subtle reminder to everyone that I enjoy PewDiePie and I miss him uploading videos. He's taking a break, um, and I'm not exactly sure when he's coming back. I thought he was supposed to do a podcast with H3, but that didn't go up, did it? I really listened to the H3 podcast a lot. Um, have they posted it yet? They said that was Thursday. No, they haven't. They haven't posted it. Well, I'll keep waiting. Maybe something came up. I feel like desk chairs are better than car chairs because desk chairs are designed to support your back and stuff. The box had T-Series on it. I know, and I pointed that out, and I made it into a PewDiePie video. Can you believe that? Some people forget about that. But there was that episode of Lawai with my hand pointing at my box, and you could see my carpet and everything. The carpet we have in our living room right now was in a PewDiePie video, as was this arm and this watch. I was, for a couple seconds in one, and he reacted to it. I was like, yeah! I know it's confusing. The name of this chair series is T, but yeah, I think the chairs are designed a little bit differently for office use compared to cars. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but this chair, can I show you? It has this little back support thing that makes it a lot more comfortable because I do spend a lot of time in my chair, and I like the headrest. It's very comfortable when you're done editing a video. You can just pull the lever a little bit. I usually don't go completely flat, but I can lean back like this, but I can still watch stuff. Compared to the chair I used to use, which is just a basic IKEA chair, nothing fancy about it, but your butt is dying once you've been sitting on that chair for a good 2 hours. You get out of that chair, your tailbone's just like it kills you. Whereas this, I get up and I feel great. I should probably just be more active, but still, I can't help it. So much of my job is this, where I'm just talking or where I'm editing and watching stuff at the same time, that kind of stuff. But, yeah. Oh, well. No new AirPods Pro until March? Dang. They can't make those things fast enough. I wonder how much of it is limited quantities, though. I wanted to bring that up because there were so many articles and headlines that kept saying, Z Flip is sold out! It's like, they're not making that many of them, right? In New Jersey, they had 3 or 4 at the Best Buy that Greg's Gadgets went to. And I was refreshing the site the night before, ready to pre-order. I didn't do a live stream for that, sorry. I didn't feel like it. It was the day before Valentine's Day, and as soon as the website went up, the unlocked option without a SIM card was instantly sold out. So I don't even know how many there were or if there were any. But it's heavily, heavily limited production. So I feel like it's a little bit misleading to tweet out everyone, Z Flip sells out! I guess there is demand for foldables. It's like, if you make 4 and they sell out, it's not that big of an achievement. Why don't YouTubers use VHS cameras anymore but still upload in 1080p and you can still see artifacts? Are you genuinely wondering why they don't use VHS cameras, or do you want me to explain that? Actually, Red Letter Media did an entire episode of Best of the Worst shot on VHS, so maybe you're just not looking in the right place. So yeah, they did an episode of Best of the Worst where all of the movies they watched were Blu-ray, so they were at full 1080p. So they decided, even though they were old movies, they were kind of restored, they decided to film the whole episode in VHS, which they still had cameras for, and then they transcoded them into their computers. And so yes, that YouTuber does do VHS content. Basically, YouTubers sold out on the Z Flip. Yeah, I mean, does Samsung factor in the returns? How many people are buying a Z Flip that aren't going to use it as their main phone, that are just using it, to test out? But how many people are actually going to spend $1,400 on that thing and then get rid of their old phone? Just be like, nope, don't need that anymore. I'm just going all in on the Z Flip. I don't know. I feel like it's mostly going to be a second or third phone for most people. That's cool and really neat, but they actually have another phone. That's their real phone. Just in case something goes wrong with the flip, which is highly likely at this point. You'd have to convert analog film to digital, and it'd be hard. It is hard. It can be done, but it is difficult, and it's way slower than digital. Um, let's see. I would buy one too. Okay, go buy one. I hope Michael got the titanium Series 5 for free because that is an expensive watch. It's a nice watch, but man, is it pricey. Sheesh. Anyways, I got to get going, people. I've got some errands to run. I'm not going to make more YouTube videos because I hate this job and I'm going to quit now. But I appreciate the Twitch Prime and the bits being supported. I was being mostly sarcastic earlier. I do have an EV video going up right after this. It won't be instant, but it'll come out eventually. The Model S reached 390 miles of range. Can you believe it? We have an EV that can almost hit 400. And it'll probably be way over 400 by the end of this year. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have an excellent day. Take care. Bye-bye.